Today, Pastor Bartlett continues to expound on the necessity of integrity in the life of believers.
There is a great difference between a politician and a statesman. One person made the distinction between a politician and a statesman in these terms. A politician is a person who looks to the next election, while a statesman is a person who looks to the next generation. Unfortunately, our churches abound with pulpit politicians, ministers who are quite prepared to compromise the truth of the gospel for the sake of their current popularity. This is the same lack of integrity that destroyed the nation of Israel in the Old Testament, where the false prophets proclaimed what they knew the people wanted to hear, rather than what God had commanded them to say. This is the ultimate example of the lack of integrity. When we come to the New Testament, we look at the supreme example of a lack of integrity in the judgment accorded Jesus by the Roman procurator Pontius Pilate. After examining and interrogating Jesus, Pilate made the announcement to the crowd, "I find no fault in him." Yet, after this declaration, Pilate was willing to deliver this faultless one into the hands of the raging mob to be crucified. This was a clear act of political compromise, where principle and ethics were thrown to the wind in order to appease a hungry crowd. We look back again to the Old Testament, to the experience of the prophet Isaiah in his vision recorded in chapter 6 of that book. We remember that Isaiah saw the Lord high and lifted up, as well as the seraphim crying, "Holy, holy, holy." In response to this, Isaiah cried out, "Woe is me," announcing a curse upon himself. He said the reason for his curse was because I am undone or ruined. What Isaiah experienced in that moment was human disintegration. Prior to that vision, Isaiah was perhaps viewed as the most righteous man in the nation. He stood secure and confident in his own integrity. Everything was being held together by his virtue. He considered himself a whole, integrated person. But as soon as he saw the ultimate model and standard for integrity and virtue in the character of God, he experienced disintegration. He fell apart at the seams, realizing that his sense of integrity was at best pretense. The believer is to reflect the character of God. He or she is to be uncompromising with respect to ethical principles. The Christian is called to be a person of honor, whose word can be trusted. How we live reveals the core of who we are. Our actions flow from our inner motivation. Integrity has to do with the consistency of what we do with who we claim to be. Without a doubt, the loss of integrity is one of society's most vexing problems. From corruption in business and politics to marital infidelity, or just the plain failure to practice what one preaches, this loss confronts us every day. This is particularly crucial for leaders, since we must, by the very definition of being leaders, command others to follow us, and they will follow what they see displayed in us. When there is an absence of integrity, there are many negative consequences that result. A loss of integrity leads to mistrust of the persons without it. A loss of integrity leads to mistrust of institutions that should uphold it. A loss of integrity leads to mistrust of the values, principles, and standards we teach. The bottom line is, when integrity is lacking, there is a great strain on who and what we may find credible. A person without integrity is hollow. There is no substance to such an individual. He or she is full of air, usually hot air. They may appear wise and knowledgeable on the outside. They may seem to have all the answers to the problems of the world. Yet their world is a sorry mess, and they are unable to fix it. Essentially, a person lacking in integrity is a pretender, a perennial hypocrite, an actor on the stage of life, playing a role that he or she is not truly representative of. A person with integrity is free from inconsistency. This is the person whose life is the same, notwithstanding the situation or context. He or she is not one thing here and another there. Their behavior matches their beliefs. There is harmony in all facets of his or her life. This person is free from what social psychologists call dissonance. However, this is not merely a feature of the person's moral life. Integrity goes deeper. Such a person lives out in beauty and fullness what he or she professes. For example, in the Christian community, persons with integrity must live joyous and victorious lives over the vices and temptations that confront them. They must live thoroughly consistent, Christ-like lives. Failure to do so on their part suggests to others either that they may not possess what they profess, or that Christ is not really capable of transforming lives.
When people observe you, do they witness hypocrisy? Many times Pastor Bartlett has asked this question. If you were arrested and charged for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict? Until next time, think on these things.